Are you able to see my screen?
Yes,
This
sir.
is the IntelliJ idea. Are you able to see my IntelliJ ID?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So as per the request, today we are going to discuss about the exceptions, how we can handle exception, and what are the different way we can also generate exception or throw exception, right? So let us suppose might we have one class in a class test, right? And they have a might be some method, right? Let's be method, and in this method you have write something logic like, let's see, we are written something the exception like into a equal to 10, that's b equal to let's 0, okay? And let's see here, say integer c that's equal to, let's divide by a by b, right? A by b. Okay. So instead of here, let's this come here input argument, right? Now int a comma int b. Let's method name will be division. Okay. If you write any method like a division, generally you have to return your output. What is divided? If all methods will be written, you like public and it should be int. So simple test method, and let's give someone main method try to create the object of your class, right? And after that they can invoke this out test let's give it instead of here you can just say test dot division. You pass any value, let's pass with 10 and here pass 5, okay? So you are getting the result, okay? So it would be good, there is no any problem, okay? So what happens if someone, let's say b parameter pass as a 0, okay? So let us the second case, we write someone pass like here 0, then system what does? So you can say if you run it, you notice you are getting something exception, right? Divide by 0 exception, because in the programming language you cannot divide any number with a 0. But in the reality, whenever you are doing some mathematics on your copy paper, you say divide by 0 is infinitive, right? But there is no such infinitive concept in the computer science. So we generally, these exceptions, these operation like division can be work for some scenario if b is greater than 0, else it will be through exception. So to handle this situation, two way. One thing, if we writing code, while writing code, I want this line of a statement can be through exception. So is I am going to handle this exception and throw some message like a division not possible or something like that. So one way, here you can say try and just write your catch box. Okay, whatever the exception you are getting here, you can handle exception. Okay, just out whatever the exception you are getting, right? In this way, what happen? Whenever you pass 0, still this line of statement can throw exception, but you are handle it, and you can return C. But C is unreachable value. So here you can see write integer C equal to something. Let's say 0, and just assign the actual result. So what happen if any problem happen? So this block, and after that this will execute and you return the default value, what is the 0. So if you run, then you notice this main method are not getting any exceptions, they are print this division value as well as. Notice main method is still printed something, So two options. So one thing, first you to identify which line of code or statement are going to throw exception. So problem here is, say we have two options. We can handle this exception in the same method, or second option, no, I don't want to handle in this method. Who is call my method? This is responsibility to handle it. In this case, our main method is calling. So why not main method handle this exception? Why I? Right? So how to do it? Let's key write my own exception. Like so instead of writing this, is just comment out. Instead of writing this code, let's write another method.
But here I have one question.
Yes.
So like here it shows like division is equals to 0.
Hmm.
Like we have returned C and we have given the int C is equals to 0.
Hmm.
But in try block we are trying to change the value of C. So
Right.
after that I think the value of C would be changed. It would not be 0, or it will be not any value.
Right. No, in the case of let's you run this code, and you notice when you pass 5, at that time it will return the proper result, right?
Yeah.
In the case of 5, this C is the divide by actual result, right? But in the case of 0, it will throw exception. So no value assigned to the C.
Okay,
This
so it means like nothing is executed in try block when we got the exception.
yeah, after that, if let's route us out. Let's hear something and just write something that here, right? So you notice, let's see, this is the C1, this is the C2, right? And this is the exception, and let's this is out. Okay. Here, just the result. Okay. So you notice whenever you run it. So you notice whenever here, let's write the one what the input gets out. A comma. So when you are getting input A 25, then initially here C equal to 0, right? And then here C equal to 4, C2 equal to 4, because this is the assigned actual value. And there is no any exception, so no exception will print, simply return will print, right? And now this is the main method, you return the division in main method, right? This is the line done. When you call next time again 10, 20 and 2, then 10, 20 again come here method, and here 0, and here is still printing C0. And after that, you notice this line will problematic, throw exception. So after that, this line will not executed. There is no C2 line, right? And after this, catch block is executed. And whatever the C have a value till here, this line, the same value will return in the return 0. So, still any doubt?
No, sir.
So this is means this is the one case where you are handle. Second case, I don't want to handle try catch here. Okay, I don't want to write. Okay? So in this scenario, but whenever you run division 1, let's if you test as a division 1 here, okay, and division 1, so you notice that you are getting some exception. So here one option you can handle. Second option, I don't want to this exception. Instead of I want to give some message, and whoever call me method, this call they handle it. So second option, now here we have option kind of something throws, and here say I want to throw my exception. Let us say you can write, even you can write your own exception. How to write? You write class my exception. Okay. Just extend your exception class. Okay. right? Just do it. And you can write your exception now. Now here say if anyone invoke division one method, responsibility of this class, they can handle this method. You notice here we are getting now something error. That means these division one methods are throwing some exception. They are throwing even my division exception. Okay. You can give any name. Okay. Right. So here now you cannot invoke. Now you are ensuring this is your class, and you want anyone who want to invoke this method one, they must handle some exception. If you want to invoke the division, there is no any problem with the division, right? This test class have two methods. One in the division, one in the division one. So division one throws some exception. So question is that how we throw exception. Here we are not doing anything. Okay, so there are one way to throw manually exception. Another way, right? Handle exception. So first thing clear ki what do mean throws? Throws means now you as a method designer want anyone invoke this method, they must handle this exception. Else your compiler your code is not compiled. That means this method can throw exception, so you have to handle. How to handle? There are two way handle. Or you can write a try catch, or again write here throws. So one way here you can say, okay, this method are throwing exception, so I can write try and catch. Now notice that this compiler error gone. That means whoever going to invoke my method, they must handle in try catch. Or if they don't want to try catch, then they are just someone not want to write, right? So what are the alternative? They can again propagate this exception. So throws exception means who call main method, that responsibility to handle my exception, right? So this is known as a method propagation. Means if this method throws something, whoever going to the call, main method is calling them. So this is responsibility to handle try catch. If this method is not trying catch, that means this method must throw exception. Now they are throwing. So throws class is always used with the method declaration. Here method declaration. Here you can declare any number of exception. There is no any concerns. 1, 2, 3, 4, any order. Till now clear what do you mean by throws? Throws is the keyword which help us, any method designer can decide this method can throw exceptions, and you can write the exception name here. And the meaning is that whoever going to call this method, that method response, now in this case of main method is calling this method, so that his responsibility, that this method responsibility to handle this inside a try catch. Is it okay?
Yes, sir. But why we have written throws my division exception both places, like also on main method and also on our division method?
No, I am not. This is my method. This I want who this method is the line something can throw exception, right? So one way I can just depend upon the default. By default, Java provides the default handler. If you're not providing anything, by default, they are throw exception, right? If you run this code, okay, Oh, sorry. If you so your question about key again repeat question.
So why we have written this throws my division exception in both lines, like also in line 38 and also earlier in line 4, which you have
Because
commented out.
yes, why we are written here, why we are not? Because if any method, simple rule, to fix if this is your test class object, and now we are going to give division one method, and division one have a declare I can throw this exception, right?
Yes.
So this whoever invokes this method is responsibility. You can try catch handle or again throw at the method level until your code is not compiled, because you as a manually specify I am throwing something new. So here you can write like here try.
And also, so we can handle the exception by this throws my division exception.
Yes. Again repeat. Let write in this way. If I am not writing here exception, we have a two option. One, I can handle try catch, right? Handle try catch. It will work there is no problem in here, even no problem is here, right? Because I can handle try catch. And our system works properly. There is no any problem, right? Because we can not throw any exception. But I know that there is no any kind of exception, right? But I know that this line can be exception. Whoever call this method, how this method may know that this method are throwing some exception. So I intentionally want no, I handle, but I want to throw my exception. So here keyword is throw, and if you are throwing something, who will handle? Throw keyword is to throw something. So here say I am throwing, not handling I am myself, but say whoever call me, they can handle this exception. So whenever you write like this word throw keyword used to throw exception. Means from here I want to throw exception. If I don't want to throw exception, don't write here. Even you don't write anything here, right? Which we did here, right? Here we handle exception, but we are not informing who call me. If who called me division call by this main method, but main method don't know कि this method are throwing something exception or not throwing. How I as this method want to inform whoever call me that must handle some exception. So the way in the catch block you say I am throwing exception. So here means now division method wants whoever call me, they can handle some exception. So here you can say let's scan throwing exception to you. So now division one is invoked by this main method. Now main method is a problematic. Now main method whoever call this responsibility to handle this exception, because this is throwing one on handle exception. So throw keyword are used to throwing any kind of exception. There are two kind of exception. One is the checked exception, one is the unchecked exception. So even I can write here my division runtime, and you can so if you use this class here, if you use this your class, new class, so still you notice your main method is still not complaining anything. He's okay because they not compiler is not blaming anything to try catch handle. Why? Because your exceptions which you are throwing, that is the runtime exception. Also known as this is unchecked exception. And this is known as a checked exception. So in Java, there are category of exception. By default, you notice in Java's all superclass is known as a throwable class. Known as a throwable class. And throwable class have a multiple subclasses. One is your exception class, another is your error class. Okay, and an exception class also have multiple subclasses, and one subclass known as a runtime exception. So runtime exception and all the subclasses known as a unchecked exception. That means that this exception are generally come at runtime, so compiler is not enforcing you to handle exception. So if you notice here, runtime exception, you notice the class is the subclass of exception class. If you notice exception is a subclass of throwable class. The throwable is the superclass of all exception. And is throwable have a multiple implementation, right? So which you can implement. In short, I am trying to say, whenever you write your own custom class, you have an option. You can write checked exception or unchecked exception. If you're going to unchecked exception, that means you have to implement your class extend from your runtime exception. Runtime exception means you throw any exception, runtime exception, but this method, whoever call me, whoever call him, there is no any impact. There is not any compulsory that they can handle inside a try catch. There is no any kind of compulsory, because your division method is throwing exceptions. That is a subclass of your your runtime. Runtime known as a unchecked exception. That means compiler is not enforcing you to handle this exception. But if you are decided, no, I am going to use the checked exception. So here you say, I am going to use the checked exception. And this is a checked exception. So checked exception means that compiler are going to enforce. If anyone going to invoke this division one method, now this compiler blame here compiler an issue, because division one method is throwing something exceptions which you are not handling. So that means in the try catch you have to handle those exceptions. So now you solve the problem. So you are trying to say in Java, one method can handle exception itself within a try catch. In any statement, he finds something can be interrupted. So you just write a try catch, handle here. Whenever you write catch block, that means you are handling exception. And after that, your smooth program is run. There is no any further needed. Second possible option, no, I have something, I handle exception, but I want to inform at least who call me. They also know that something unwanted happen. Something not go as per my expectation. So how this method inform someone calling me, that's in the main method call me, how this method inform you can handle some exception. So the way they can again throw exception. The throw keyword is to throwing exception. From here, this method throw exception. So who throw exception, who will handle it? So if you not writing here it, that means you are throwing something, you are throwing exception, but no one handling it. The compiler give you the error. Right?
Yes, sir.
So here, what possible option? Now you handle exception, but here you are throwing something. There are two options. Or you can handle again try catch, try and catch, again handle exception. Okay, you again handle exception something. Sorry, not here. So inside here, you have a two options. You again try and catch exception again. Right? Something. So that means here you are throwing some exception. At least compiler will not happy until someone not handle it. But whenever I am writing at the here throw exception, surely I don't want to handle. Means ki who call me that can handle. So generally we are not writing here try. Right? So the first way you can handle itself inside your block. Second way, no. I want whoever call me, method one, whoever call me, that can handle. So here I'm using keyword. Now you can throws. Throws my exception. This method are going to throw this exception. So now whoever invoke me, division one invoke main method. So main method is responsible to handle try catch. If they not handle exception, so compiler blaming exception, you are not handling my exception because division one method is throwing exception. So throw keyword is used to throw exception from inside a method. In any line, you can throw this line of exception. Whenever you are throwing, there are two options. You can try catch or you can declare at the method level, throws. So here throws use means now who call me division one method. That's responsibility to handle this method. If you're not handling, compiler is not happy. Compiler throws exception. So here we have also two options. Or we can handle in try catch, or we can write try catch here. Write try catch here, right? A second option, no, I don't want to handle here. So I say no, go to declare at a throws level. So in this way handle. So mechanism is same. You can handling inside the try block or just propagate who call me using the throws keyword. Till now it's clear ki what do you mean by throw. Throw means throwing exception. Throws means we are declaring this method can throw this exception. Why can throw? Because if b number is not 0, then we are not throwing this exception, right? If b is a 5 or 10 anything, that means this try block completed without throwing exception. So this method say throws means ki this method can be possible through this exception.
So whenever we are writing any method and we say it throws one exception, then do we need to include try catch block in that exception?
Yes, whenever you are declaring any method as a throws, any here method here, any kind of class, you can write here, and that means ki who are going to call this method. Here, calling method, this method is responsibility to handle inside a try catch.
No, sir,
Right?
in division we are writing that try catch block.
Here.
So division one, sir,
Here,
in
if you
down one.
in this case, you this line throw exception you handle and just you write the some message. Nothing you are doing here. This means you are just handling exception inside a method itself. Now this method is not throwing any exception to who call division. So this is known as exception handle. Here,
In the
yes.
in division one method, if we
Hmm.
don't write throw new my division exception and write something print statement like print the class message then
Yes,
we are
here you
handling
want
it
to
on
give,
our
here you want to give some message here. What are you trying to say here?
like if here we write like my division exception has occurred like for
Like here written something like SOP.
yes sir so
Yes, you can write anything here, and even you want to see here key division exception occur. You can write here as well as division exception occurred. And here, any class, this means you are new class, means you are creating an object and you are passing something, means you write some constructor. Here write one constructor that takes some like a string magic, yes, and just write a super propagate this message, right? So here, whatever you're passing, this will handle here. No, whatever this message you are propagating, and now here you are trying to say try catch. Here say s out e dot message. So whatever your message set, you are getting this inside the message. Now division one, you call, they are throwing exception this, because here they are throwing and you are passing some message, and whenever exception occur, you can handle here and you are printing whatever the message this throw. And this is the message you are getting, right? This method is thrown by this value is thrown by your this class, right? So you have a complete control. If your method want to throw some exception, you can use this keyword throw and new and your exception class name and whatever message you want. But whenever you are throwing something, now two action here, okay, or you can try catch or you declare at a throws level. And whenever you declare at a method level throws, that means ki who call me, division call me by this line. So this must be handled inside a try catch and handle my exception.
In this case, why our code have not been executed up to full? Like we have not printed the last two lines.
Which one? From here, this one, right?
Yeah.
Because we are throw exception, right? All right. Because here I want something happen from here, my method will throws. And notice that this is only C1 is printed right here. And after that, this throw, because we are not returning anything, because you are getting something that is not executed. So this is your, from in this block, your control goes the method where this call. This division is called by the main method. So control come here and handle try exception. Now this message come. Right? So please note that Q, after this line throw in your method, under all the line is not going to execute it. From here, control goes back from where this method call. If division call from main method, the control come this line again. But if you handle exception here, you try catch, throw exception, but handle. After handle, this line again print. This is means you are handling exception and continue your processing. But here I don't want to continue my processing. I want to just inform you now from this line, we cannot continue my other logic because we are getting some exception. So here we have to inform who call me, something unwanted happen. And these lines are not going to execute it. So throw keyword are used to throwing exception from inside a method. And whenever you can use throw, And in this case, you have to declare at the method level so that who call me, that know ki I have to handle this method. Right? And one thing, notice, this throws means here throws means you can write multiple exception here. Even you can write exception here. Even you can write runtime exception here. Any number of exception you can write at this throws level. That means this method is a possibility they can throw division exception. Similarly, you can throw exception. Similarly, you can throw runtime exception. Any number of exception. And in here, there is no any kind of order. You can write first this or even write after this. So here in any order, you can write any number of exceptions. This means possibility that your method from here, you can throw my division exception. Also, you can throw exception. Even you can throw exception class. So even you can throw exception. Even you can throw runtime exception. So any number of exception you can throw from here. So what happens if your division method are throwing multiple exceptions? So in this case, from where this method called, this is called from main method. Now you notice main method is not happy because they say this class throwing multiple exception. This class say this method is throwing my division exception, runtime exception, and exception. So you have to handle all those scenario here. So here you have to write again one more catch block to handle your runtime exception. And still you notice one more exception is thrown. Now you notice your compiler is happy. Now these methods are throwing 3 exceptions and all 3 you are handled. So in this case, please ensure that they maintain the one order. You cannot write this exception class the top or this on the top. So first your subclass, then subclass, and superclass should be always in the last. Why? If this method exception, first this line execute. If this is the exception of my individual, if not, then jump here. If class is exception, if not, then jump here. In sequential execution happen. Due to that, we have to maintain the, if you are writing multiple catch block, always please ensure that superclass should be the down. If you write this block, if you write this exception first, then if you write this exception here first, so notice that compiler is not happy because this exception is handled by all the exception. Even you not needed anything further. So if you are writing multiple exception, even you not needed this because this is the super class, so they can handle all exception. So please be ensured if your method is throwing multiple exceptions, so please ensure that first subclass, then further subclass, then further subclass. This is the super class. So this is here you maintain your hierarchy order. But in the case of throws, there is no any order you can write in any order. So throws keyword used at the method declaration level means specify this possible method can throw this exception or this exception or this exception anymore. And who call? If this main method call, this is responsible to handle try catch and handle all the possible exceptions. Till now, any doubt?
Yes, like one doubt. If we write in front of the main method throws exception, then we doesn't need to catch those.
No, doesn't need to catch. if you write this, if here exception throw, now you have two options. You can handle in try catch or just propagate who call main method. So who call main method? JVM call main method. The JVM code base is responsible to handle exception. Just I mentioned throws exception. But you notice this method throw multiple exception, so you have to write the multiple exception here. Now it's no need to handle here. Now your code is working and fine. But only problem, you notice this exception is generated by your JVM. Means now you are not handling your method, but Java runtime environment and handle your exception because they can invoke your main method. But generally, always our responsibility not throw this kind of exception. I want my custom exception should be throw. So we generally recommend don't use throws class inside the main, right? But you are invoking methods, you must use the handle inside your try catch, right? No, after you noticing, I only handle my exception and giving the proper message. And one benefit here, let's see if you write in here like as out your main method is done, right? Something message main done means ki after this line also executed. Okay, you notice you main done, so that your program is not terminated. Still your program is running. If you call another method, like if you again call this method, okay, still it works, right?
But sir, if we like doesn't put any try catch block and put throws clause in line 4, then it will not execute the main
No,
method line.
no. After that, your let's okay, and you just okay here, right? This will throwing exception, and if you just try to here in this way, what happened after this line? Your program is terminated. This set of lines is not executed by system. You notice after that your program is terminated, right? So
Yeah.
this way recommendation, it might be after that you want to play some business logic, right? You don't want here means if you write this way, that means from this line your JVM Java virtual machine is crashed. Stop. Your server is stopped. Your server is not responding either any further because main method is invoked by your JVM. Now your JVM crashed. JVM is stopped. Due to that, generally recommended don't use the throws class at a method level, right? And after that, you notice this method is still invoked, but that is handled. And after that, again you are doing something, right? Right?
Yes, sir.
So please always try to handle your method if some method throw exception. So as first thing note, there are two kind of exception in Java. One is the checked exception, one is the unchecked exception. If your method throw any unchecked exception, at that times compiler is not compile your code and suggest please handle your inside the try catch. If you are throwing some unchecked exception, so in this scenario, if you are throwing not this exception, if you throw this exception, Okay, in this exception. So compiler
चक्कर पै गया।
सारा वीडियो तो रिकॉर्ड